I thought I would show you my prayer plants. The good, the bad, and the almost dead. G'day my lovelies, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. I'm Kathy, and today I wanted to show you all the prayer plants that I have, which for some reason I have been able to keep alive, for the most part anyway. I thought I would share what I have learnt about the prayer plant family, what has worked for me and what hasn't worked for me. Now, prayer plants fall under the Marantaceae family. There are, I think, 150 genera and quite a few species and cultivars. They grow in tropical regions in the Americas, South America as well as Central America, depending upon the species. There are several genera that are very well known as houseplants, such as the Marantas, Stromanthes, Tenanthes, Calatheas, Goeppertias. Prayer plants are understory plants. They grow, I think, on the forest floors, so they don't get any direct light. You cannot give them direct sunlight because it will burn their leaves. They've also been known to curl their leaves when they're getting too much light. Prayer plants are often referred to as low light plants or medium light plants. However, I have recently discovered that if I give them brighter light, they grow better. They grow faster for me. Now, most prayer plants have this very striking, distinctive, almost burgundy coloured abaxial side of their leaves. When the leaves are young or new, they take a while to develop that reddish back, which is what sets them apart from other plants. In addition to which, they have this incredible foliage. Look at the markings on these leaves. I can see why people are obsessed. I'm obsessed with these. They truly appear to be works of art, like somebody has taken a paintbrush and painted onto the leaves. It amazes me how nature has created something so stunning and beautiful as this. It's very common with prayer plants that they have incredibly detailed and striking foliage, which is why they're so popular. Another thing that the prayer plants have in common is that at night their leaves will rise up straight into the air, like they're praying, which is how they got the name prayer plants. It's very unusual. It can be a little unsettling when you first see it, but I absolutely love that they do that because they look different at night to how they look during the day. In the day, or when there is light, their leaves lower so they can soak up as much sun as they can. They are just so unusual and so beautiful, all of them. They are often referred to as diva plants, and I think sometimes they deserve it, but not all of them. This Maranta leuconeura, for example, has been one of the easiest plants for me anyway to grow. Can they be divas? Yes. I can't deny it. They can be. But some, I think, are easier than others to look after. They are just so unusual and beautiful. They are almost like pieces of art, if you ask me, which is why I have several. Altogether, I think I own 7 prayer plants. I have Calatheas, Stromanthe, Maranta, Goeppertias, which I'm used to calling Calatheas. The only genera I don't have that is common as a houseplant is Tenanthes, only because they don't appeal to me personally. Most of my prayer plants I have had for over 18 months, probably 20 months or more. Some I've had for a little bit less time. I have found that most of them have similar care requirements, but not all of them. and I thought I would go through each one that I own and how I take care of it. So let's start off with my gorgeous Maranta. I have shown this recently. When I bought it, it was much smaller. I've had it, I think, less than a year, and this I have found to be probably the easiest of all my prayer plants. It just grows and grows and grows. It is still growing now, even though we are a week away from winter. Seriously, it's crazy. And I just love the way it grows every which direction. It is very striking and unusual, and whoever sees this stops in their tracks because they can't believe it's real. When I first got this plant, I put her in a hanging basket about half a metre back from my east-facing window, and there is a curtain between her and the light that she got, and she exploded. Seriously, she just grew every which way. I decided to move her as I wanted to try another of my prayer plants in that position and see if it would boost more growth in that plant. Now my Maranta sits about 2 meters back from my east facing window, and she's still growing, even though we're really almost in winter. So she can tolerate lower light, but the higher light you give her, the better she will grow. With respect to humidity, the humidity levels in my home range between 38% and up to 60%. We even got 70% this summer, which is so odd for Melbourne, but generally it sits around the 50 to 55% in the warmer weather. Now that it is almost winter and I'm running my heaters, the humidity has definitely dropped. As I did not have this plant last winter, I might find that she won't like the lower humidity in winter. So I've actually taken out my humidifier, and I will be running it practically every day until the humidity levels rise again. Regarding watering, I find that not all prayer plants are the same. My Maranta does not like to dry out completely, but she likes to be a little bit drier than some of my other prayer plants. I usually wait until she is 3 on the moisture meter before I water her, and I always check her before I do give her any water. With prayer plants, people often recommend that you use distilled water or rainwater, because otherwise their leaves will become crispy. I only use tap water with all my prayer plants, all of them. And as you can see, she has hardly any crispy edges. She only has a little bit of crispy edges on those leaves that she had when she was shipped to me. So I suspect that that's why they got crispy, because they were in a box. But all her new leaves are perfect. Can you see there is no crispiness whatsoever? I have read that Melbourne tap water is apparently very pure. Perhaps that is why it doesn't seem to affect most of my prayer plants. But that doesn't mean I don't get any crispy edges. Occasionally I do, but not on my Maranta. The next one I wanted to show you is this, my Calathea rufibarba. She is absolutely adorable, and she has fuzzy leaves, so I just love touching her. Now this one I have had for over 1.5 years, nearly 2 years I'd say, and she struggled. She would get crispy edges all the time. Initially I wondered if she got crispy edges because of the tap water I was using. However, when I moved my Maranta, it was so that I could give this plant higher light. She now sits in my east-facing window about half a meter back, and she is growing like crazy. Seriously, I can't believe how many leaves she's putting out. She is definitely liking the higher light. Prior to that, for over 1 year, she sat about 2 to 3 meters back from my east-facing window, and even though she grew slowly, and a lot of her leaves were crispy. But as you can see, she has a lot less crisp, even though she has a lot more leaves now. So I have discovered that the rufibarba prefers higher light. She does not like low light. Now with watering, she does not like to dry out. I actually once forgot to water her and she looks so pathetic that I thought I would lose her. She is in peat moss, the same soil that I bought her in. I have refertilized her, and even though I'm not a fan of peat moss, she seems to like it because she remains moist longer. This plant, the rufibarba, prefers not to dry out to 3 or lower. If she is at 4 or 5, I will give her some water. If she is lower, I give her a lot more water. And because she is in peat moss, it takes her a lot longer to dry out. If I find that she does suffer from lack of humidity, if her leaves start crisping again, then I will move her closer to the humidifier. And then I think in spring, I'll move her back closer to the window because she just grows so well for me there. Next one, the almost dead. This is my Calathea, or actually I think it's Goeppertia now, insignis or rattlesnake or lancifolia Calathea. This one I have had a lot of difficulty with. In fact, I think she's dead, but I have heard that if you cut them back, they might resurrect. So I'm not throwing her away just yet. Now I have had my lancifolia or rattlesnake Calathea for over 18 months, a small plant. That one has given me more grief than all the others combined. It didn't matter what I did for this plant, she was not happy. She constantly had crispy leaves. She sat right next to my humidifier in winter. It didn't matter. In spring, I tried to give her a little bit more light. I moved her into my laundry, which has usually high humidity, but no, this plant was unhappy. As a last-ditch effort, I placed her in a glass jar. She hated that the most. I don't know what this plant wants. All I know is that it has been very, very difficult for me. Now, I have seen other people in Melbourne who grow this plant very successfully. I do wonder if perhaps I have difficulty because it is a small plant, a baby plant. I really don't know. I am going to try again if this one doesn't come back, which I'm sure it won't. It's just, I find it really hard to throw plants away because I always hope that they might come back, because sometimes they do. But if this plant is dead, which I really do think it is, then I'm going to replace it. I loved the markings on the leaves, but I might try a different size. I might try a little bit bigger plant and see if I have more success that way. So what mistakes did I make with this one? I have no idea. Perhaps it would have preferred higher light. Perhaps it did not like the tap water. Perhaps it required even more humidity than it was getting. I really don't know why it deteriorated. Sometimes we just can't figure out the answer. Anyway, that is my almost dead Calathea, or Goeppertia, I should say. Okay, the next one is my Calathea Beauty Star. She was doing a lot better when she was in my living room. She is now in my study. I have turned on the humidifier just yesterday actually, so hopefully that might help with some of the crispiness, but she is definitely getting a little bit more crispy than she was. I also suspect that she would prefer higher light. She was definitely growing better when she was getting a little bit more light. So I might move her as well closer to a window and see if that helps her. Perhaps with the humidifier she'll do a little bit better, but I know that she can cope with the tap water because she did. Last year I had her sitting in my living room and she seemed to cope very well with the water. So I do think that perhaps she wants a little bit more light, and that might help with the crispiness. It definitely helped with my rufibarba. So she is going to get moved, but not until after winter. I think she'll do better with more humidity, so she'll sit next to the humidifier and will have to cope with a little bit less light until spring. She has a little bit of pink running down her leaves when she gets higher light. So clearly the light does affect all the prayer plants, even though they are known for being low or medium light plants. She's beautiful though, she really is. I do occasionally cut off some of these yellow tips, but I don't remove the leaves until they're almost completely damaged or dead. I find that the Beauty Star does not like to dry out completely. If she is around 4 on the moisture meter, I give her some water. If she is lower, then I hurry to give her some water. I still think she's beautiful. And hey, you know, nature isn't perfect, we're not perfect, so perhaps we shouldn't be so hard on our plants when they get a little bit of yellowing on their leaves. So that is my Calathea Beauty Star. She is still definitely one of my favorites. The next one I wanted to talk about is my Stromanthe sanguinea Triostar, which is a little big for here, but I will insert some footage for you to see her. She sits behind me, currently on the ground, in front of my small west-facing window. I've had my Stromanthe for around 18 months as well, maybe a little bit longer. She seemed to be doing very well, and then in spring I noticed some of her new growth was dying, so I repotted her. I thought perhaps she wants some fresh soil, and she has rebounded, so I'm very happy, but she hasn't put on a lot of growth. I suspect she might need more light than I'm giving her. She does occasionally put out leaves, but not a lot of leaves. She also does have some crispy edges, but that I suspect is because the humidity in my living room can drop quite a bit when I run the heaters. I have a hygrometer in here and it's telling me it is at 34%. Now I might end up moving my Stromanthe if I see she starts deteriorating. But she coped out here in the same conditions last winter without a beat, even though she does have a few crispy edges. I find that the Stromanthe Triostar likes to dry out a little bit more than other Calatheas. I wait until the moisture meter reads 4 or lower and then I give her some water. She's a beauty though, and she has gorgeous colouring, no doubt about it. But she's definitely more on the lighter side, more pink and white, whereas most of the other Calatheas I have are darker leaved. Next one is this. I love this plant. This is a newer Calathea of mine, or Goeppertia. This is the makoyana, peacock plant, some people call it. She is a stunner. I love this plant. Look at these gorgeous, gorgeous leaves. And then look at the back. Oh, I love looking at this plant. She currently sits in my living room where the humidity has been dropping because I'm using the heaters, but so far she's okay. She has 2 crispy leaves, which she had when I got her. She was sent to me in the mail and those leaves were damaged when I got her, but every other leaf is perfect. She does not mind our tap water whatsoever. She even seems to cope with lower humidity. But if I notice that her leaves are turning a little bit crispy, I'm going to move her. I will put her closer to my humidifier. Now I've had her 4 meters back from my north facing sliding doors. Because we're in Australia, north facing is the strongest light we have. And she grew and grew and grew. She is now a little bit closer. I have her on a little table to the side from the heater. And so far, she's doing great. And I've been running the heater, I'd say at least a month, because it is chilly in Melbourne in the last month of autumn. But so far, look at her. She's stunning. Oh, really? She's becoming one of my favorites. I love the more rounded shape of her leaves, and the pattern is just incredible, particularly the abaxial sides. I love how half of the leaf has this dark burgundy colour and the other half is almost translucent. She is a stunning plant, and I have found her extremely easy to look after her. Now with lighting, I think she can cope with medium to bright light, just not direct light. And with humidity, she seems to be more tolerant of lower humidity levels. Now with watering, I wait until she is dry. I wait until she is at least 3, if not lower, before I water her. She prefers to dry out a little. She does not like to be very wet, and that has been successful for me. And she is definitely gorgeous. I just wanted to show you again just how beautiful she is. Stunning, isn't she? Just gorgeous. A plant I have killed is the Calathea Medallion, or roseopicta Medallion. Beautiful plant. I absolutely love the leaves on it, but I struggled with that one. And I think partly I struggled because I did have an outbreak of spider mites in that area. I treated the Medallion, but I don't think it ever fully recovered. It's not like it had a lot of leaves. It was getting medium to low light, so it didn't have many leaves, and perhaps it was just too much to also be attacked by spider mites. Perhaps it would have done better in higher light. I don't know. I am intending to replace it one day. I actually ordered a Medallion, but instead I received something else, and that is this. Stunning, isn't she? This is the Calathea Illustris. It is also a cultivar of the roseopicta, and it is different to the Medallion in that it has pink running down the center and a little bit on the sides. Also, the baby leaves or smaller leaves are much darker than the Medallion. I'll be honest, I really didn't want this one. I'm not a fan of pink, but she's a beauty, and her leaves are much bigger than the Medallions are. She really is stunning, and she's starting to grow on me, even though I don't like the pink on her leaves. But look at that. Look at that colour. Stunning, isn't it? Just gorgeous. She is a stunner. And the older the leaves get, the darker the burgundy gets. Ah, just beautiful. And she is still putting out a little bit of growth. Now, I don't know how she's going to do with winter. She is getting medium light, and I guess I will find out. But so far, she seems to be doing well. With watering, I wait until she is 5 or lower, and then I give her some water. She is also in peat moss. It seems that most Calatheas prefer that mix because it retains moisture more than a fast draining mix. And it's working very well for them, which is why I have not repotted them. If I do repot my prayer plants, I'm not going to add perlite because they won't want it. They don't want the soil to fast drain. They prefer it to retain some moisture. So that is my last prayer plant. Now, I wanted to talk about some of the issues that people face with prayer plants, predominantly the crispy leaves. The crispy leaves, I think, could be down to several reasons. One is perhaps the water quality that you use. Another is a lack of humidity. But I'm also starting to think that lighting might play a part as well, because this rufibarba currently has no crispy leaves. I have not changed the water. I have not been running a humidifier, and yet look at her. All her leaves are beautiful. Now they might start going crispy because we're almost in winter, but so far in the 3 or 4 months that she has been in higher light, she is growing really, really well. So there might be several reasons why we get crispy leaves on our prayer plants. And the only way to rule them out is to change things. Give them higher humidity or give them higher light, or try rainwater and see whether that resolves the problem. I think though if you live in Melbourne, the water quality is good enough that these plants don't seem to object to it. Now another problem, a major problem that often occurs with prayer plants is pests, in particular spider mites. They are often referred to as spider mite magnets. Now I did have an outbreak of spider mites last winter, 12 months ago, and I thought perhaps I had spider mites on my Beauty Star or Medallion, so I sprayed everything that was in the vicinity, but I didn't see spider mites on them, except perhaps the Medallion. I was spraying them more as a preventative measure. Given how close they were to the plant that was affected, I was surprised that my prayer plants weren't in worse shape. Now, I do spray all my plants with sea salt, a seaweed extract solution, which apparently can help them combat pests. Perhaps that is why they weren't as affected by spider mites. I don't know. Regardless, prayer plants are notorious for being pest magnets, not just spider mites. I think they are also prone to mealybugs. Obviously, the more often you check your plants and the sooner you catch the problem, the better your plants will do. If, however, a pest takes a hold of any plant, not just your prayer plants, then it might be a lot harder to eradicate the pest, whatever pest it is. I think with the prayer plant family, pests are usually the major problem. Not so much overwatering, because they don't mind extra water. However, that does not mean they like to be drowning in water, but because these are plants that like their soil to remain moist, they are not going to be as susceptible to overwatering as, say, peperomias are. They won't, however, like drying out too much. They will definitely show you that they're not happy that you forgot to water them, just like my rufibarba did. I honestly cannot get over how much this plant has improved just with higher light. It is amazing. I know she's not to everyone's taste, but I love fuzzy leaves because I am a leaf petter and she is very fuzzy. Well, that is all I have for you today. I would love to hear which of my prayer plants is your favorite. For me, it's a real toss-up. I love so many of them. I think though that, no surprise, right? My beautiful Maranta has to be top of the list. But the makoyana would be probably a close second. My Beauty Star? Oh, yeah, no, I love them all. Regardless, let me know which one is your favorite. Now that is all the tips that I have for you as to how I take care of my prayer plants. I would love to hear how you take care of yours. And you can put it down in the comments or you can contact me on Instagram. Thank you all very much for hanging out with me. I do hope you found this video useful. And if you did, you can do the usual thing. You can like, comment, or subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. I hope you all have a beautiful day and a beautiful weekend, and I will see you next time. Bye.